Magical things can happen when you combine the creaminess of bone-extracted tonkotsu broth with rich and punchy umami-filled miso and a selection of finely crafted toppings and sides that explode with flavor with every single bite. This was a special miso ramen by Yukiguni in Yokohama to celebrate Niigata at Ramen Waka Kitchen, and it's the kind of bowl that you never want to finish. So let's begin with the broth, which has its own story to tell. This was distinctly a miso broth, but the actual miso flavor is far from being overwhelming. I was pleasantly surprised by the strength of the tonkotsu properties of this dish. It had a rich creaminess that the miso blended with perfectly. Chef Shibata-san chooses his type of miso very carefully for this reason. The type of miso used in this bowl he described as having a much more mellow flavor with a lot of emphasis on the smell and flavors specifically from the koji. If you didn't know, koji is the agent that ferments the base ingredient of the miso. In this case it was rice, but soybeans and barley are also often used. The rice miso featured today came from Niigata, specifically Miyoko, Shibata-san's hometown. I do not exaggerate when I say that this broth was out of this world. Every sip was like a dance with flavor, and the more I ate this ramen, the more I loved the broth. No broth can be complete without its selection of ingredients, however, and there was not a single mistake in the entire dish. Focusing on the noodles for a moment, these thin, homemade, springy noodles were divine. I loved how easy they were to eat, and they had a great wheaty flavor. What I loved the most about them was how contrasting they were with the toppings that were served in the bowl itself. As you can see, the bowl in its initial form seems quite basic. Onions and bean sprouts, but that's what makes it great. The contrasting textures in this bowl offered a lot of character. The softer noodles, the crunchy bean sprouts, and the tanginess of the onion that had just the right amount of bite to it, that when it all came together, it created a satisfying texture in the mouth that was an excellent supplement to that rich and delicious broth. And I haven't even mentioned the excellent garlic, the spicy kick from the pepper, and the meatiness from the mincemeat cooked into the broth. All perfect additions. My ramen was served with 3 different dishes alongside it. The first of these included some nori, some long and sweet bamboo shoots or menma, and a nice flavored egg. I'll come back to the nori in a moment, but the bamboo shoots had a nice sweetness to them, which I especially enjoyed with the sharpness of the onion. The flavored egg was no less than perfect, lovely and soft with a slightly runny yolk and a rich creaminess that almost matched the creaminess of the broth. Excellent stuff. Okay, coming back to that nori. This part of the bowl had specific instructions on how to eat it. To preface, one of the extra dishes that came with my bowl was a small bowl of rice. This rice, grown by Shibata-san's uncle in Niigata, was meant to be paired with the nori in a unique way. Take the nori and soak it deep into that rich miso broth. Let it really absorb so that the nori stringifies and begins to clump together. Take the provided white vinegar, which was one of the optional condiments, and add a few drops to the nori while it is in the miso broth. Now, this nori is jam-packed with flavor. Add it to the top of the rice and you immediately see the drippings of the miso soak into the rice itself. This was a fantastic little side dish of rice, and I am so happy that I followed the instructions because I absolutely loved the saltiness of the nori, the umami flavors of the miso, the slight sourness of the vinegar, and the puffiness of the rice. It came together and was the perfect complement to my ramen. Although I was very full by the end, I must admit. Now, this is the part of the dish that I have been most excited to talk about, and I really needed to save the best for last. The chashu. This was magnificent. 3 slices of chashu, from top to bottom: pork belly, pork thigh, pork shoulder loin. Grilled before serving and accented with direct flame, these slices were unreal. The pork belly was falling apart within my chopsticks and was so rich with flavor, and the tenderness was just amazing. The pork thigh had an excellent smokiness to it. In terms of flavor, this was my favorite slice. Lastly, the pork shoulder had a little bit more fattiness to it, giving it a bit more chew. It was actually my least favorite slice of the bunch, but yet it was still some of the best chashu around. I honestly would be happy eating any of these slices of chashu alone. That's how much I love them. Excellent work, Shibata-san. And that is the bowl. This whole experience really blew me away. I came out of the restaurant this week completely satisfied, with a belly full of delicious food and a smile on my face.
Miso Ramen Yukiguni の柴田正宏と申します。皆さんこんにちは。私は、新潟県で生まれて神奈川県の横浜というところで育ちました。私はラーメン店を横浜市の泉区というところでやっております。お店の方では普通の味噌ラーメンをベースに甘エビペーストを使った甘エビ味噌ラーメンや辛い香辛料かんずりという新潟特産の香辛料が入っている辛味噌ラーメンとか、あとは塩ラーメン、醤油ラーメンとかも販売しております。どのメニューも新潟が全てキーワード、テーマとなっておりまして、新潟県に何かしらの素材を使ったりしてこだわりを持ってラーメンを作っています。ぜひこの動画を見ている方、日本、それからラーメンに興味を持たれた方はぜひぜひ日本にいらしてください。東京も、たくさんいいところがありますが、日本はものすごくたくさん、見どころがある、スポットがたくさんあります。場所がたくさんあります。なので新潟にもぜひ来ていただきたいですし、東京や横浜いろんなところに遊びに来てたくさんお金を落としてほしいです。はい、ぜひ遊びに来てください。横浜に来たらラーメン雪国にぜひ来てください。よろしくお願いします。それこそ新潟はあれですね、あそこの写真でありますけど、妙高高原がすごく綺麗です。四季折々で写真のように表情が変わるので、写真を撮るにも楽しいですし、アクティビティもたくさん充実してますし、そこの現地にいる人たちもとても温かく、外国の方とかも温かく迎え入れてくれると思うので、ぜひ、いい思い出になると思うんで、妙高新潟おすすめです。いらしてください。